BBC Radio Sheffield Ronnie's Forum, 6 minutes past 12. A very special forum today. First hour of the forum today, very special. We're going to be talking about Fred Pass. And Fred, the artist, you may not even know that bit of his story. Well, you will know by the time the next hour has passed by. I'm joined in the studio by the family, by Sandra, his wife, by Mark, Jill and John, the children. And we're going to talk up here, first of all, in the studio of Radio Sheffield, about Fred and his life and times and what went on. And then we're going to go down and look at the pictures. For me, for the first time, I've seen them gathering, but I've not seen them all upon the wall. I've brought my own picture of Bob Dylan in to impress you with a gift from Fred himself, which has been on my wall ever since he gave it me in the year 2000. And it's a very moody Bob Dylan looking at us here. But downstairs, a load more pictures. Mark, tell us the story of the pictures of your dad.
Well, my dad's been drawing since about 1977. He went to night school with my mother, and he's always been a bit talented in doing cartoons and things like that, but he just wanted something to do. He went with my mum's a good painter, and he just went, and he just snowballed from there. He liked doing portraits.
We're going to talk about the art exhibition, the pictures of Fred, which are waiting downstairs for us to look at.
Across South Yorkshire and North Derbyshire.
This is BBC Radio Sheffield.
I'm down at the retrospective of Fred Pass Drawings in Ink. It's down at BBC Radio Sheffield. You can come and look at them. They're here all week, from 9:30 to 3:30 till Friday. It's called Fred Pass 1942 to 2007. Drawings in Ink, a retrospective, a collection of wonderful drawings in Indian ink from the world of art, sport, politics and music by the author of Where's Me Mam and of Where's Me Dad. Where's Andy Kershaw. What's Radio Sheffield's part of it?
Well, I got home one evening, Ronnie, and I saw in the Sheffield Star that Mark had made an appeal for someone to take an interest in Fred's pictures, and I think that evening I rang you into Mark at home and said, I'm interested and Radio Sheffield's interested and we've got the space and the time, and Mark was taken by that idea, and here we are in our wonderful open centre with all these pictures. I've just been polishing the picture of Margaret Thatcher, which my dad would turn in his grave if he knew that. But
turn it round.
Absolutely. And we got these lovely exhibition boards from the Sheffield Art Club, and they're going on to the Samaritan shop in Chapel Walk after this. But I just thought that Radio Sheffield and our listeners would take an interest in them, and the interest has been phenomenal so far, and I'm really pleased that we've been able to exhibit them here in our open centre.
Have you got a favourite yourself among them?
Well, I think the one of Nelson, apart from Fred's own self-portrait here, which is absolutely wonderful. It just brings a tear to my eye when I see it, because Fred supported us off-air. We did a thing a couple of years ago up in Tudor Square for breast cancer care, where we did sort of pink aerobics and got people dancing, and Fred came to everything we did on the BBC bus and supported us for every initiative we took with Radio Sheffield. But I think the one with Nelson Mandela, just after he was released and became president, Fred wrote to Nelson Mandela, and Mandela wrote back with signed his picture, and there's a picture here with a letter from the office of the President of South Africa, which is one of my favourites anyway. They're all my favourites, they're wonderful.
Good, thanks Andy. Well, there is a picture of Mrs Thatcher when Andy Kershaw was polishing it only this morning. It's the only one with any colour on it, actually, and I suppose this will be because Fred was a lifelong Conservative, will it?
No chance, no, it weren't. We were ranked Labour. He just did it because you were famous, Prime Minister. He didn't like people to think that, and we had...
But did people think that when he'd done this?
They must have done, yeah. They were photographing the Star of him, weren't they, in the paper.
That well-known Conservative.
Yeah.
They put it in Star, and they said that he were fond of the Iron Lady, which, like, we lived on Wing Gardens at the time in a masonette, and he were a big Labour man, my dad. And first person to walk past was a bloke called Bill Hague with his greyhound. He says, Tories are here, they've got some rate money here. So it didn't go down well at all.
This is a time when there was a big difference in Labour and Conservative, which isn't the case now. And he had a thing through post from Tory party saying, you want to join, and you want to pay by direct debit or a cheque? He went berserk.
So to clarify it, he wasn't very keen on Margaret Thatcher.
No. It's strange how one of his first ones was boxing, and the last one he did was the boxing one. Rocky Marciano.
Yeah.
The Rock, that one there. Right.
There's also a Joe Cocker here. He thought he could sing like Joe Cocker, Fred Pass, didn't he?
With his gruff voice, he says, you can't. He says, I'm sure I could sing like him. He said, no way.
It's a very dark picture, Joe Cocker. I don't mean literally dark, but it's sort of there's a lot of pain in that picture, isn't there?
He always used to say there's certain people who were good to draw. He often tried certain people who were never happy with it, so he just threw it away. But certain people have got a certain, a face to draw, sort of thing. He used to say, yeah.
He's got Ron Atkinson with a clenched fist, looking like some revolutionary.
I mean,
Who's
apart
this?
from Margaret Thatcher, used to like a lot of these people. I mean, there were people like Derek Dooley, weren't there? Which were a big hero is, and Gandhi, which speaks for itself, really, doesn't it?
His rock and roll.
Yeah, Jerry Lee Lewis.
Signed Jerry Lee Lewis.
Yeah.
And
He used to find out where they were appearing at and then send his drawings, and they'd send them back if you were lucky. He got
And he
them
was a
back.
fan of his, Ronnie. Hannibal Lecter, that.
That's right.
Anthony.
Anthony Hopkins,
Byron
Bernard
Guigan.
Wigan.
Matt Busby.
Matt Busby.
Johan Cruyff, Frank Bruno.
Where did he store them at home? Your house must
We
have
used to
been.
have at Withens Avenue. We'd got like a long passage, and we used to display them on there, But when we moved, we just finished up putting them in a big box. So
But they're
that's
all
where
here
they
again.
are.
If you want to look at them on BBC Radio Sheffield, they are here at the Open Centre from today till Friday from 9:30 to 3:30. They're also available next week at the Samaritans on Chapel Walk. That's right, isn't it? And you can get them if you go to the website, the BBC Radio Sheffield website, the BBC website, which is bbc.co.uk/South Yorkshire. There are a selection of those drawings. They're actually now on, I think they're literally now just going up live online, so we've got that one. Who else? Well, there's another whole lot over here. He spent some time doing this. John Quinn. Boycott looks.
Jeff Boycott, we've got Johnny Quinn, Danny Wilson, Dennis Skinner. Or eat bowls over beast, were he?
Did he admire the beast of Bolsover?
I think he liked his straight talking, didn't he, really? Yeah. A few Wednesday players here. David Hurst, which he met David Hurst and he had a picture took with him, didn't he?
Roland Nielsen,
John
Sheridan, Trevor Francis, Gascoigne.
Don't see many Blade. I mean,
He did one of Dave Bassett, didn't he?
He did a couple, but he ended up giving them away. He couldn't keep them.
United on well, can we?
He weren't as bitter and twisted about football as we are, but he did keep them.
He's obviously got a bit of the bit into.
That was much as United, I felt.
He auctioned a lot off for charity, didn't he?
He did.
Did he?
He
Of
did,
these
yeah.
pictures?
Yeah.
He used to take prints. He used to take copies of them, obviously, and they look like the original. If it's a black and white photocopy of a black and white photo of a black and white drawing, and he raised money for Western Park, didn't it?
Yeah, the boy up Stannington.
Take a lot of time when we used to go abroad on holiday and stuff. You used to take me some of my drawings, and we used to take them to bars in Spain and stuff, and they used to put them up free,
And sell them.
So they're all over.
Oh, are they?
No, I didn't sell
just a
them, no.
donation, just because when I'm not here, they'll be up.
Sandra, you're the one who understands this, aren't you? Because you're the artist. What are they? How do you go about doing these pictures?
Well, he just saw photographs and he thought, I could draw that. I'm sure I could draw that. And he just sit in house, and
He found it relaxing, I
started
think.
doing drawings, and that were it.
And what's the material he's drawing with? How's it done?
It's pen and ink.
Indian ink.
Indian ink.
There were specialist pens, weren't there? I don't know what the
The
technical
word
term
what
is.
Pete McKee said. He said
stipple.
there's is it stipple drawing and stuff.
Let's go right back to the middle of the exhibition where there's this little picture of Fred himself, and that's, I suppose, where we began, so where we ought to finish, really. Above a picture of Peter Scudamore, there's Fred Pass himself, signed his own thing. Alongside Elton John, alongside Boutros Ghali. What's he doing next to Fred Pass? Little lad from Sheffield.
They've got a lot in common.
Well, yeah. So this is Fred as he saw himself in 1992. It says underneath, Fred Pass self-portrait. This is his writing, his own description of himself, isn't it? Yeah. Fred Pass self-portrait, scrapyard worker, born February the 2nd, 1942, youngest son of Fred and Gladys, brother of Brian, married to Sandra, dad of Mark, Jonathan and Jill. What's he look like to you on that picture? Has he caught himself?
He has. He was a bit chubbier in the face in those days, but he has. I think it's a great picture. I do. And I think my dad, he also did a CD for us as well, with all his favourite music on. And he always used to say, "Oh, I'm the best pal the best pal you ever had."
I think you're fantastic to have come in and done this today. I think the exhibition's wonderful, and a lot of people will enjoy it with you. They'll cry as well. Thank you ever so much.
Thanks for Radio Sheffield as well.
Thank you. Radio Sheffield.
I've been with the Passes and Sandra, Mark, Jill and John, BBC Radio Sheffield, at this new exhibition. It's now open at the Passers have declared it open, live on BBC Radio Sheffield. Fred Pass at BBC Radio Sheffield at Shoreham Street.